So we were working on this form in our previous videos. This form has an input field for taking name of our users. Then we have another input field to take password data from our users. Let me delete these attributes for this moment so the file looks clearer and you can understand properly. Let's add a break tag, as the input tag is an inline level tag. Then write a paragraph tag with the text gender : In this video we are gonna understand the radio buttons. What are radio buttons and why we use them? We use radio buttons in cases where multiple choices are available but user has to select one. For example, user has to select their gender, so he has to select his own gender from multiple choices. And let's say there is a field in our form which asks the user if he is physically challenged or not. Then he has to choose from yes or no. In this kind of situation, we have to use the radio buttons. So let's see how we work with radio buttons. For that, we write the input tag. I'm gonna close the input tag in the same tag, as it is an unpaired tag. The type would be radio. Save the file. You can see there is a radio button in our web page which we can select, but we have to specify that what does the radio button meant for. So we have to write something so the user understand for which reason this radio button is. So I'm gonna write mail. Save the file. You can see there is a mail text after the radio button. Then we can give a name to this input field. Let's say the name would be gender male, and we can give an ID which will be also gender male. We can give a value and that would be male as well. And keep in mind that while working with text boxes and passwords, we may set the value attributes value empty, but while working with radio buttons, we should not put the value attribute empty. So while working with text boxes, we may put the value attribute empty, but while working with radio buttons, we should not put the value attribute empty. We must have to give a value to this value attribute. Then let's say we have another option which is female. So I'm gonna write the input tag. The type would be radio. The name would be gender female. The ID would be also gender female and the value would be female. Save the file. You can see another radio button, but we have to specify what does the radio button meant for. So let's write female. Save the file. You can see we have two radio buttons with the text male and female. We can select these radio buttons, you can see, but here is a problem that user can select both of these radio buttons, but the actual behavior should be when someone selects this male radio button, automatically the female radio button should be deselected, and when someone selects this female radio button, automatically the male radio button should be deselected. So for this behavior, we have to group these two input fields. So to group these two input fields, we have to make their name same. So both of them should have same name. So let's make them same. Here I'm gonna write gender value, and here also I'm gonna write gender value. Save the file. Now if I select male, male gets selected, and if I select female, male gets deselected and female gets selected. And if I again click on male, male gets selected and female gets deselected. This is the actual behavior that we want. And keep in mind that while working with radio input types, we have to give some values to this value attribute. While working with text boxes, password fields and others, we can give some values to the value attribute, or if we wish, we can leave that empty what we want, but while working with radio buttons we must give a value to this value attribute. And one thing I would like to show you that when we load the page, both radio buttons are deselected. But let's say when user loads the page, the male radio button should be selected. For that we can use an attribute in the male radio button which is checked. So if I write the checked attribute and save the file, you can see when the page loads, the male field is selected. In the same way, if I delete the checked attribute from the male input field and write this in the female input field and save the file, when the page loads, you can see the female radio button is selected. So I hope you understood radio input fields and why we use them.